My name is Émilie Poirier, and I'm the head of short film here at FNC, and I'll be your host for this Q&A. So you've just watched the program number 2 of the international competition, and in this program you've watched This Means More by Nicolas Gourault, Digital Funeral beta version from Sorayos Prapapan, Battlefield from Jannis Lenz, Which is Which from Marie Losier, Read Aninsri or Tiptoeing on the Still Trembling Berlin Wall from Ratchapoom, Boonbunchachoke, and The Return of Tragedy from Bertrand Mandico. And with us today, we have, for the Q&A, we have Sorayos Prapapan. Hey, Sorayos. Jannis Lenz. Hey. And Ratchapoom, Boonbunchachoke.
Hi.
So first of all, thank you so much for accepting our invitation for this online Q&A. I know it's weird during COVID to do like not physical like presentation of your film, but thank you so much for accepting this invitation. So first of all, like the first question is, please introduce yourself, your practice as a filmmaker, and after the film that you're presenting here at FNC. So we'll start with Sorayos.
Yes, I'm Sorayos Prapapan from Thailand. I'm a filmmaker, mostly make mini short films. Yeah, I think that is. The film I show it here is called Digital Funeral beta version.
And can you explain the film a little bit for the viewers?
Yeah, I cannot explain now. Sorry. Skip this.
Okay. No worries. Okay. So same question from Jannis.
Yes, I'm a filmmaker and I work in Austria and in Germany. And my short is called Battlefield, and it's about gardening soldiers.
Thank you. And same question for Ratchapoom.
Yeah, hi, I'm Ratchapoom. I'm from Thailand. I'm a filmmaker. I normally work as a scriptwriter for televisions and feature film in commercial, but I also make short film and developing my own feature. My film presented here is called Red Aninsri or Tiptoeing on the Still Trembling Berlin Wall. It's such a long title. It's a spy film made in the tradition of post-World War Thai film that is like it's deployed dubbing technique. So most of the film is in dub. Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah.
The second question is more like a general like feeling about your work. So what interests you like in cinema, and are you more focused on like maybe the visual aspect of it, like of filmmaking, like art direction, styling, or cinematography, or are you more focused on actor interaction, or what is your relation to sound design, soundtrack, mixing, everything? And maybe Sorayos, for you, like what is your link to technology or something? So it's more like a general question on your approach to cinema. So first to answer, it's Sorayos.
I might say this film is quite totally different from the other work for mine. And normally I'm kind of like make fiction. Like we have an actor, we have script, and we rehearse, we do everything in the narrative way. But for this one, I'm just want to try something new. So it end up like that. It end up like what you just saw, and maybe even I'm a narrative filmmaker, but I like to watch a lot of like all kind of film, and sometimes the video art as well. So I think, in my opinion, I feel like artists or people who make video art have more freedom than people who make a conventional film. So sometimes I envy those people. So I just like want to be one of them.
That's a cool approach. Thank you. For you, Jannis?
I'm very much interested in testing the boundaries between fictional and documentary films. So in acting, but also in the stylization of the movie. And beyond that, I'm also more interested in moments and episodes than in linear storytelling. So I also like this kind of movie, but for me, myself, it's more interesting to bring several individual moments together and opening up a room for interpretation than leading somebody through an emotional roller coaster or something like this. Yes, I think that's pretty much it.
Perfect. And for you, Ratchapoom?
I was thinking of my answer, but then I forgot. But it's like because I work full time as a scriptwriter for television series, and sometimes like I felt like I was like quite trapped in the conventions of storytelling of TV, and it's very, how to say, like it's quite limiting in a way. So when I work on my own project, I try to test the limits and try to like find a way to because sometimes I feel like why I could tell a story like this in TV, in drama, so I should try the new thing in my own project. And yeah, I think I'm more kind of like more focused on writing. Yeah, and it leads to acting as well, because I like because I kind of like I kind of like really focus on dialogue as well. But if you understand Thai, it's quite very artificial. I like artificial dialogue, and it somehow needs to be paired up with artificial acting. So kind of like, yeah, I'm interested in like how to convey this artificial dialogue in very convincing way, in something like that.
And how to modify it and like to make it your own, and
yeah. Not like realistic.
Yeah.
I don't like realistic. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we'll go back into more of specific, like for Sorayos, like the title says it all, like digital funeral beta version. It's kind of, you wanted to think about your own funeral. So why, like, where does this idea come from, and why you wanted to do it in a more experimental way?
Sorry. Sorry. So actually, I did this film. I made this film. It's a workshop in my country about the VR camera. And during that day, I borrowed the camera and I fell it down. I mean, the camera fall down to the floor, and so I need to pay for the camera. So that day I was very sad and really sad, and so I took a nap. But suddenly when I woke up, there is more sad news coming in my country, which was the big shooting sequence in somewhere in Thailand, like in Kholat. And I feel shit. My sadness, it cannot compare to people who lose their life or lose their family. So I think it's like one of the most sadness thing is like the death. So it made me remind of when every time I went to my someone funeral, the conversation is always like, hey, if I can decide my own, how would it be? So I think it blend to the VR thing, because it's a VR workshop, so I can, everything is 360, and my room, which is this room, is very narrow. So I just like mix two concepts about holding the funeral in my bedroom. And of course it's a beta version, because the real version I cannot do it. It's not real. So I don't know. I think I this is what I can answer you.
It's really interesting. And how and why you wanted to work with like this camera and in this, like you said, like workshop, like why you wanted, like, you're interested like in that kind of technology, and like are you used to like work with technology and like new way of doing filmmaking?
I might say no, not at all, but because we submit film to many film festivals and many festivals have a VR section.
Mm-hmm.
So I just like some of VR maker are filmmaker too.
Yeah.
And back then I was before the workshop I never watched any VR film. So I just like I might can make before I watch it.
Mm-hmm.
So I see the workshop. So I just register to the workshop and just attend. Yeah, nothing much. Yeah.
And are you now more interested in VR? Do you want to do more VR work?
Not really. Even because even this film is supposed to be VR, but in the end I export to be film, and I think I like the film version more than VR.
Yeah, it's
I
really
think
interesting.
The VR version is more freedom, but the film version you force audience to look whatever you capture. Yeah, so I think I prefer film in the end.
Yeah. So thank you. I will follow some questions with Jannis. Uh, it's really interesting because it's like a reality that we don't often see, like this gardening soldier that are doing these tasks. Like, what inspired you for using that kind of story to use like documentary and fiction and mixing them and like playing with them, like?
Yeah, actually, it came all from the inside. So I just watched them doing their gardening work. So you see them, and I just found it very interesting because it's so unusual to see people like in uniforms doing this kind of work, and it fascinated me in some way. But in the beginning, I didn't know why and didn't know what for, but I just knew I had to film it. And then later, when I put these fragments together, then it suddenly kind of made sense for me because it's like a metaphor. If you watch several of them and watch them doing this the whole time in repetition, and because this kind of work they're doing through the uniforms, it gives it a strange new meaning for me.
And it's like, it's really interesting because it's like you said, like you like the frontier in between, like the borders in between like documentary and fiction. We see your film and like we don't know what's happening and why, so it's really interesting, like this approach. So can you tell us more about like the more technical way to do it, like how you present yourself to the subjects, like in that case?
Yeah, usually it kind of grows over a longer time of period. So I try to walk through the world attentively, and then sometimes several ideas come together, and then I have a feeling I have to go deeper into this kind of topic, or so it's not that I have like an idea and I say, oh wow, that's it. So it's growing like in an organic way, and that's also how I work on my films. Until now, I never had a finished script, whether if I was doing more fictional or more documentary. It's all happening through a lot of improvisation, and I change the script during shooting, and sometimes I have some days of editing in between the shooting period, and it's all kind of it depends very, but I try to give my team and me as much freedom as possible to react to reality, because I think that's so important when you're doing a film, because for me it's like capturing reality, whether it's stylized or it's in a documentary way, and there are so many things happening around which you're not prepared for, but which are sometimes much more interesting than what I've been planning. And also some accidents or stuff like that made very interesting scenes in some of my last films. And things where I was like saying on set, oh no, what should I do? And then in the end, in the editing room, it was, oh, it's so great that we have it this way and not like we planned it. And yeah, it maybe it sounds a little bit chaotic, but there is a kind of idea behind it.
But do you like shoot daily, like you went there and you shoot a lot and at the end you're like, okay, I'm doing a film, or you really plan this film and you say, okay, we'll shoot like 10 days and that's it?
Yeah, no, I prepare very precisely. So if I have an idea or a theme, I try to go as deep as possible. So I read a lot about everything around it. Can be like politics, can be novels, or I don't know. And I also prepare very good with my actors, but with improvisation. I worked for theaters in the beginning when I started, and there it was like people were discussing like for a month before they even went to stage for the first time. And so it was like, in the end, it was such a rich, it felt so plenty of everything. And that really impressed me. And I think that also shaped my kind of work. And so it is more in this way. So we are very prepared, but we try to be, I think you can only be open if you're very well prepared.
Yeah.
And yeah, so in the end, it's not that chaotic as I maybe described.
Perfect. And how you approach sound in that case? Like sound is like managed after, or you're thinking at the same time that you're shooting, like, and then just even sound, but like soundtrack. Do you produce music? Do you like, how do you in that type of film that you're doing, like how can you think about sound?
Yeah, it can be both. Sometimes I'm even inspired by a sound, and that's why I make a certain picture, because I think film has these layers with which you can work. So you have picture and sound, and what interests me very much is what's happening between, if I bring like contrasts together. So sometimes sounds that don't fit as much to the picture. It depends. Sometimes the ideas come in the editing room, and sometimes it's already on set. Like in this case, in Battlefield, it was, of course, you had like these roaring mowing machines and stuff. So it's a big part also of the movie, and also of the feeling you get when you watch the film. And so with the music, because I thought it needed a contrast, and also to give it like a kind of, or to express more my kind of surreal approach I had with this film, because for me this all was kind of unreal, and I wanted to push this a little bit.
Yeah, totally. It's kind of unreal, but at the same time, it's so like daily. So it's like
it's so simple, and that's what I found very interesting, because it develops it through the film. So when you see the first pictures, you don't know what's happening, and then maybe you get an idea. And I also try to keep it as open as possible, because it's such a simple kind of banal thing. But I heard so many different interpretations of what people see in this simple kind of
I'm sure.
kind of work, and that's what. So that made me very happy.
Yeah. Oh, good. Thank you. Thank you. So we'll go with Ratchapoom. Your film is quite not heavy narrative compared to these two, but like you have a long narrative. It's like a lady boy that is like a secret agent, and like you have also like this fun, like it's so creative the way that you put like the sync, like you said, like it's a thing that you were doing like in Thailand, like in the pre-Cold War like films, and after they have like their voice that are coming back in the film. So can you talk about more of that, like kind of way to do film in Thailand and why it inspired you?
Oh yeah. Normally after the World War, like the equipment was expensive. So most of the filmmakers after the World War, they have to like opted for like cheaper equipment. And one way is like they just they just like shoot the film without sound and put it in the post-production. And also other reason this I find it quite fascinating is like because in the 50s, 60s is considered like golden age of Thai cinema. Like there's like hundreds of films produced each year, and maybe the actor that is like the most famous one, every filmmaker, every producer want them to star on their film. So normally they might be like in one day they might shoot 4 films, one in the morning, like the second one in the noon and the afternoon and the night, something like that. They didn't have time to like memorize the script.
Yeah.
So they just like they just go in front of the camera and some assistant like say the line and they just repeat after that.
Oh
and
God.
and after in the post-production they just sings. Yeah, they just voice the actor. So dub the actor. Yeah. So that's how they make film back at the day, dealing maybe 50 to 80s, something like that. But I think one of my friends who is a film historian, he said that he told me about very interesting is that because the Thai audience has this perception that the actor and the voice need to be aligned, perfectly aligned with each other. Like if the hero needs to sound heroic, the heroine needs to sound very virginal, very beautiful, and the villain needs to sound very villainous. So if the actor could not deliver their line convincingly, it will lose the audience. So I think it's very interesting that you need to sound very masculine, very heroic to be a hero. And I think the idea is very interesting because this tradition of dubbing is somehow like slowly stopped with the ending of the Cold War. Like in the 90s when the Cold War seemed to like dissolve, like people like filmmakers start to shoot the film on sound again. Yeah, so I think this coincidence is quite interesting for me, and it leads me to this idea of like being like the society of control during the Cold War and a new kind of control after the Cold War. Yeah, and that somehow lead me to this film.
It's so interesting how you use that mechanism in your film, but also like where did you get this inspiration for this story, like the secret agent, also like the lady boy, the other guy that is like hiding miss something, like everything.
I think spy film is very Cold War. It's a genre of Cold War.
Totally.
It's a genre of Cold War. And also like in Thailand, we also have like, how to say, it's kind of imitation, like James Bond imitation. Batman imitation. Actually, we have this kind of Batman alike Red Eagle. He's a rich boy who sees society going down and he could not stand that. So at night he has to dress up his costume as a Red Eagle and fight the drug trafficker, fight communists, something like that. But the interesting thing is he's like Batman. He's from the rich. He's from the elite class of society. So the standard of goodness, the standard of moral integrity of the society is viewed from the rich position. And I try to subvert it from this masculine hero to like a lady boy. And there's a lot.
Totally opposite.
Totally opposite. And I think the idea of like lady boy when she dressed as a girl has like a very feminine voice, and when she has to go undercover as a man has a very masculine voice. It's very interesting. Like this cross between gender is very interesting.
It's very interesting. Like what brings you to like target this like subject like gender and everything? It's like you treat it in a light way too. It's so easy to understand in your film and it's so like enjoyable. So why are you interested in like the gender subject and to play with them?
I don't know. I never like consciously think about it. But I think, it's, I mean, I think I like queer cinema because like normally in Thailand, like there's a lot of queer film, LGBT film, but mostly it's the romantic film. And And when there's some filmmaker that try to make film like about politics, there's mostly about the character mostly straight, and they try to like collapse it. Like normally queer film is about relationship stuff, and I like to see queer film that's also deal with politics stuff. Yeah. I think maybe that's one of the things that I like to convey.
You wanted to
film.
mix and everything. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And can you speak about more your approach to cinematography in that case? Like, were you inspired by some spy film or sort of Thai film, or like your art direction and everything?
I want to make it look artificial. Like I think when I discuss it with my cinematographer, I think I told him that I want it to look like a fairy tale, like not so real. Like because like Thai films, like from the old days, the color is very, how to say, like very artificial, very exaggerated. Like yeah, it's not so subtle. It's not so. Also, the dialogue is not so subtle. I think I learned a lot about dialogue from old Thai film because they're not the example of subtlety. It's so exaggerated in every way, and I like that. I like, it's so unrealistic. So actually, but I'm also afraid that if I reference from old Thai film too much, people would not understand that. Like, is it kind of too cheap or something like that? Yeah. So I sometimes like reference like from the Western film, like European films to make it more relatable internationally. Yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting. Okay, so but I think we made it. Like, do you have any last word you want to share with us on your films, or do you have some comments? Anyone?
No, I don't.
Perfect.
Just hope you enjoy.
Okay, so thank you so much for being here to discuss your film, and also it was a really a pleasure for me to present them together. And thanks again for accepting our invitation to FNC. And if you like this program, don't be shy and share it on social media. Everything will be online until October 31st. So feel free to discover other films and programs on the FNC platform. So thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.